He's the God that loves us when we're hurting.
Mm.
He's the God that gives us freedom to, make whatever decisions we want.
Hey, it's Jonathan Unthank, and on this episode of Rewrite, I'm sitting down with Josh and Matt from The Afters to talk about faith, pain, and the power of God's presence when life gets real.
Rewrite.
New life, new beginnings.
Hey, I'm Jonathan. Thanks for joining me for another Rewrite podcast. And this time, oh man, this is going to be fun. We've got The Afters, Josh and Matt hanging out. Fellas.
Nice.
Well, thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on.
Totally.
This might be a boring episode because Matt and I, our stories are not that exciting. No, we both were raised in Christian homes. So I was raised in a Christian home, parents that were very on fire for Jesus. I don't remember not being a Christian. Like that was never a part of my story. And I think the same goes for Matt too. My parents, however, their journey to Jesus when I was born was really cool. I was born in Wisconsin on a little farm, and my mom is Dutch. My dad, he's from Illinois, but he's a pipe organist. And so he would go to Europe and travel around building and performing on pipe organs. Ended up going through the Netherlands, met my mom, fell in love. She had been previously married and had 2 kids and a cat. And 2 months after meeting, he asked my mom if she would come with him on a trip in the United States in a Volkswagen hippie bus. So they went and bought one of those, those Volkswagen hippie buses.
Wow.
They got one of those. She brought the 2 kids and her cat, and they ended up traveling the United States and Mexico in that Volkswagen bus for it was a camper, and it was for over a year. And then somewhere along the way, they decided to get married, and just went to a justice of the peace. Never had a ceremony or anything. Got married, and then they moved to a little farm in Wisconsin, and it was on that farm that I was born. But they were not Christians at the time. But when my mom went into labor, there was a local pastor who heard that there was a birth happening, and he came to pray for them. And it ended up being a false labor. But that night, my dad gave his life to Jesus. The pastor shared the gospel with him, and he gave his life to Jesus. And then 2 weeks later, when I was actually born, he came back and was praying for them again. And my mom gave her life to Jesus on that night. And so they were on fire after that. It was like they had found what had been missing. They said there was so much Jesus in our house that my first word was not mom or dad, but it was Jesus, because of how much they talked about Jesus and how much they sang about Jesus. And so that's the kind of household that I grew up in. We were in church a lot. But with that, I feel like comes, I don't know, it's easy to take for granted what you have and what you've grown up with. And it's not some radical story like some people have of their testimony where they came out of something really hard and found Jesus, and that changed everything. But I did experience what life with Jesus was like, growing up. And I did see what he did in my family's life. And there came a time when I was just starting out in college, and I started getting challenged by some professors at my college to really be able to defend what I believe. So I started reading a lot of C.S. Lewis and a lot of apologetics books, and really wanted to understand, okay, why do I believe that the Bible is real? Why do I have faith in Jesus? Why do I believe the things that make me a Christian? And that was kind of when my faith became my own. And it wasn't just the faith I grew up with. It wasn't my parents' faith. That was when I really realized why I believed what I believed. And I think that was a big moment for me too, in my faith walk.
I love that. Well, and then you see where that's taken you, and just the worldview that where that in the lens that you look out of now is when you made your faith your own. It's like, okay, here's God, my life is yours. Take it. And you just see the handiwork of God, the fingerprints of God.
And to be honest, I mean, Matt and I grew up in similar communities. There's a lot of overlap, and our families knew each other growing up. And his, he has family that were really close to my family, and so there's a lot of young people that came out of the same kind of Christian upbringing that around that same time in life we've seen walk away from their faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a pivotal moment when either you lean into your faith and you lean into your relationship with Jesus, or there's people that reject it and walk away. And my story was that I leaned into it, and it came more alive.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, Matt. What about you, man? You know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of like Josh said, I grew up in a family where we always went to church. My mom and dad were worship leaders at our church when I was just a kid, and we were real involved on Sundays and Wednesdays, and both of my grandparents were in ministry. My dad's parents
Mm.
were missionaries in Mexico, and my mom's parents, they were pastors of a church down in South Texas. And so I grew up in a very Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if the doors were open, we were there. So I think yeah, the way you said it, like how did you get to know Jesus is an interesting way, because it's more than just like
Mm.
your salvation story,
yeah,
It's like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you, the first time I heard about Jesus, because I've been hearing about him from the time, from before I could talk. So, um, but getting to know Jesus is a whole other, facet of that. I think
Mm.
as
That's
as
good.
a let's say like as a child and teenager, uh, you know, getting to know Jesus uh, was maybe was maybe different for me in some ways. Um, like I think one of the first challenges of knowing Jesus as like a loving God, and like as a father, was challenged with I was abused as a child, and I think like trying to figure out if Jesus is who he says he is in the Bible, like how could
Mm.
he have let that happen to me? So um I think God showed me through that, like I was getting to know that Jesus um isn't like a helicopter parent. Like he's like following you everywhere to make everything happen to you good, like he's not gonna like some moms are like, oh, as soon as their baby like goes up to the step, he doesn't come over and keep you from falling from the step, but he is there to pick you up after you fall, right? So um I think that was the first like really challenging thing for me, to know who God is, to know for sure, that he is good and that
Mm.
he's with me.
Mm.
And then, you just go through life, and I don't know about you, Jonathan, but adulting is hard.
oh yeah,
Uh, so I feel like as we walk through life, seeing God through that lens, like, he's I think some people think, man, as soon as you start walking with the Lord, then everything is going to be great, like it's just going to be awesome.
Like winning
Uh,
the lottery.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm about to be just like fat, rich, and happy, like, um, so, like, I guess even more recently, I just continue
Mm.
um, to see God working in my heart, in my wife's heart, in my family's heart, through suffering.
hmm
So,
Mm.
even and it's odd because our church has kind of been going through looking at Jesus as a suffering servant, and the Bible calls us to be like Jesus. So, a couple of years ago, my wife had a tumor that we found in her lungs. She had to get half of her left lung removed, and then her brother went to prison. Her mom died. There's just like this series of just really like hard things in her life, and that we've been walking through together. And again, just trying to see God from a perspective of he's the God that loves us when we're hurting.
Mhm.
He's the God that gives us freedom to make whatever decisions we want. And sometimes, those tend to be bad, you know. And it's not that God wasn't there. It's just that, God made us as autonomous. He didn't make a bunch of robots that just do whatever he wants all the time. That I was, this is a while back now, but just reading through C.S. Lewis and kind of how, especially the problem of pain. And one of the things that, he tries to answer in that book is how could a loving God allow pain in this world? And he's so great at just kind of like fleshing out like, well, if this, then this, and then this, and then this. And so kind of one of the things that he talks about in that book is he created us to love him. And the only way that love is possible is if there is a possibility to not love. And so, this is the inherent consequence of giving man, autonomy to make his own decisions. We're going to make bad decisions, and those bad decisions are going to have consequences for us, for the people around us, for our community, for our world. And so, getting to know Jesus for me has been kind of a journey of learning, like God doesn't walk around trying to make every bad thing, keep every bad thing from happening to us. He gives us the freedom to not love him because he wants us to love him, and then knowing that God was there the whole time, just like a wise father. Like in raising my own kids, me and my wife, we have different strategies. My wife is like, keep everything bad from happening. I'm like, hey, they got to learn now, or they're going to learn a harder way maybe when they get older. So I'm like, no, let them fall. And then we'll pick them back up. We'll give them a hug. We'll let them know that they're still loved. We love them and it's okay. And then they move on and hopefully learn from that, right? So
I love
I
that.
think that's kind of been that's like the overall thing. And like just from a salvation standpoint, like I've always known the Lord, and most of that time I've loved him as well. But that journey has just been a long road of suffering. But God has proven time and time again, that he is with us in the hardest times. He's with us when we fall, and he's picking us up every time. So that's how I would kind of describe my journey of.
I love that. Well, and the thing that kind of jumps out to me in both of your stories is the promise of his presence.
Yeah.
That he's just there. He's there for us when we're on the good days, on the hard days, when when everything's going okay, and then those days where we fall flat on our face. It's just he's there. And I maybe that's the case for someone who's wondering and they're listening here, like, is he around? Does he care? Does he love me? You got billions of people around the world, and there all this stuff going on and turmoil and this and that, but you still have time for me. And then it's overwhelmingly yes. How have you experienced that, say, in your own life, where, and I know, Matt, you kind of alluded to that, but the promise of his presence, and then it's like when you thought there was no hope, you're like, oh, you're right here the entire time.
We were working through those questions around the time that Matt's wife was diagnosed with that tumor. Because when something bad happens to someone who's really wonderful, our brains have a hard time dealing with that. It doesn't make sense. You know, his wife is an amazing woman who's active in church and loves her family and community well. And like, why is she someone who's facing this horrible journey and horrible diagnosis? And so we wrote a song called God Is With Us that was about that very thing. Um, and just realizing that God is, like he says in scripture, he's close to the brokenhearted. And definitely have felt that when I've been in that place. Definitely have seen that as we walk through those seasons of life. We have the promise of God's presence with us. And as we navigate those questions of, okay, God, where are you in the middle of this? I mean, leaning on scripture is so important to see that God does promise us his presence. He is there. And there have been so many times where on the other side of a situation where I felt alone in it, where I felt maybe like God was even far away. Looking back on it, I do see, oh wow, you were so present in that, and you did so many things that I can now see. It's almost like your perspective shifts as you have a higher altitude vision of it. You know, I'm seeing it from 30,000 feet instead of the ground. Sometimes you can see things just a little better, and there's so many situations in life where it's been that way.
I love that. That's you know that I think of both of your stories where you have a legacy of faith, you know, that preceded you, and then you are a part of that legacy. Now you guys have an opportunity to extend that legacy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see that? You know, each personally.
You know, right now, my daughter is engaged. She's getting married May 31st, and I have
Awesome.
thought about that a lot in the past 6 months. Um, and it really does make you, you know, I should have been praying for the future spouses of my kids, you know, for a long time. And now I'm praying for my daughter's soon to be husband. And I think to myself, oh man, like this is a whole I should have thought why how did I not think about this? Um yeah, I think I'm so thankful and I'm so blessed that all of my kids love the Lord and are involved in their, you know, my the boys that still live with me, they go to our church. And then my daughter, even when she's out at school, she's going to church there and trying to get involved there. So I am just like there's one thing like I want my kids to be successful, but if they're not successful, you know, to the degree that I would hope they would be, but they love the Lord, I'd rather have that
Hmm.
than um you know than anything. Like I feel like, well, as long as they love the Lord, then everything else is bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just really, yeah, I've thought about it a lot more since my daughter has gotten engaged. For sure, for sure.
Josh,
Yeah,
what
and I
about you,
want to
man?
well, I want to encourage anybody who maybe is in that place where one of your kids has walked away from the Lord, you know, and you have tried to instill this faith in them, and then for whatever reasons in life, maybe they've taken a detour. Because I saw that happen with some of my siblings. Um, you know, we were all raised in the same house, same kind of influences, and my older brother and sister, they had times in their life where they walked away from their faith. Um, both of them now are back and on fire for Jesus. They both love the Lord and walking with the Lord. But my sister's story particularly, it just shows the power, I think, of parents never giving up on their kids and
Mm.
uh, continuing to cover them in prayer, even when those seasons happen. And then just trusting God with it. My sister, when she went to university, she studied archaeology. She wanted to be Indiana Jones. She got the hat even, and she ended up moving to Israel and working with one of the top Israeli archaeologists, and was basically living out her dream job of being an archaeologist in Israel. And she left her faith. You would think that, you know, walking in the footsteps of Jesus, it would have been the opposite, but she left her faith. And every time we would see her, she would debate us, trying to, you know, get us to believe that the Bible was just fairy tales and, wasn't true. And it just devastated my parents to see her take that path, because they had known her when she was excited about her faith, and we knew that part of her. And then to see her completely reject it, they were devastated. And my dad, well, first off, my mom, she always took the approach of, we need to be on our knees and we need to be praying for her, because God's going to bring her back. She always believed that. And then my dad, he passed away from cancer in 2004. But right before he passed away, he gave his Bible to my sister that had all of his notes and highlighted passages in it. And he said, I know this doesn't mean anything to you right now, but hold on to it. And she did. She just put it on her bookshelf, and it just collected dust for over a decade. But then over 10 years later, in 2013, when she and her family, they were going through this really hard, difficult, and dark season, she started having these dreams. And she said, I'm having dreams of Jesus, and he's saying, follow me.
Mm.
And she said, I don't like it. And I'm like, well, that's what we've been praying for a long time.
Mm.
And one night the dream was so strong that she couldn't go back to sleep. And she got up and she went into her living room. And for the first time since my dad gave her that Bible, she opened it up, and there was a passage that my dad had highlighted, and it just kind of jumped off the page at her and spoke directly to what she was going through. And the next 2 nights, the same thing happened. She would get up, she would go read the Bible. And I remember her calling me and saying, I want to give my life to the Lord. I want to give my life to Jesus. And 3 months later, she flew out to Arizona, and I got to baptize my sister. And she's just been on fire. And if you'd told me 10 years previous to that my sister was going to be on fire for Jesus, running a ministry in Israel, reaching out to people who are basically like she was, I would not have believed you. And it just shows the faithfulness of God. And so if your child is in that place, stay on your knees and pray for him. Don't give up on him, and know that God will bring him home.
I love that. Well, you guys have been such an encouragement just over the years, and I know you've done so much work with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the crusades and things like that with Will Graham and others, and it's just an amazing thing where we're able to partner together, and share the love of God, and much of that comes through the form of story. I mean, that's how Jesus communicated. He was just he used those stories to get the point across. And this is just the time where we can share those stories of how he's shown up in our own lives. And we're living testimonies of this. This is not just something we've made up to fill up 30 minutes of time. This is real life. This is real life. This is it, man. This has changed my whole future, and it can change others as well. So, man, so cool. Thank you guys for hanging out today. This has been so fun. This is Rewrite, Stories of New Life in Jesus. I'm Jonathan Unthank. If you'd like to join a community of listeners who enjoy hearing the life stories of Christian music artists and influencers, then join the Rewrite text group by texting the word Rewrite. That's REWRITE to 81891. But more importantly, if you'd like to dig deeper into your own relationship with Jesus, you can begin that journey today by texting his name, Jesus, to 81891. God bless you. Join me next time for another episode of Rewrite.